Hello, you're listening to The Fight Game on Sports Rap Radio, 1270 AM Detroit. I'm your host, Timothy McKain, alongside Anthony Hollywood Jackson, who actually won't be able to join us today, along with producer Tamani Johnson of Focal Edge Media. We got a lot of sports topics to talk about today, a lot of great sports topics that I really want to tap into, including the Adrien Broner versus Blair Cobbs fight. Now, just to be honest, as a sports fan, as someone who's followed the sport of boxing for years, I grew up loving boxing, Muhammad Ali's, Mike Tyson's, but I really grew up loving Floyd Money Mayweather. And Floyd was this great boxer, in my opinion, the greatest boxer I've ever seen, right? And alongside Floyd Money Mayweather was Adrien A.B. About Billions Broner. Now, when I remember seeing Adrien Broner along with Floyd Mayweather, you got to see the Can Man's greatness. The fact that this brother was a four-time champion in multiple weight classes. The brother was the spitting image of Floyd Money Mayweather. But along the way, where success happens, sometimes people, they do other things. They're not as involved in the fight game as they once were. I remember there was a documentary, this 24/7, where Floyd Mayweather was actually at a concert, and Adrien Broner, who not only was a champion, but was a rap artist at the time. He actually transitioned to not just being a boxer, but a rap artist. He decided to tour with Lil Wayne. So Floyd's looking at him and saying, yo, what's up with the stomach, man? He's like, AB's like, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose the weight. We're going to be good. I'm going to go back and I'm going to kick some butt. Adrien Broner, from, I believe, the era from when he was dominant, like champion, 2011 to 2016, Adrien Broner was one of the best fighters in boxing, hands down. The Can Man was the man. But over time, due to falling in love with other things and maybe not being as disciplined in the sport, he lost his way. Now, here we are in 2024, 8 years after he won his last championship. He's fighting a guy named Blair Cobbs, who frankly, I had never heard before. I never knew who Blair the Flair Cobbs was until he fought Adrien Broner. Matter of fact, I remember watching, I believe it was on Fight Hype. It was Fight Hype, and it was a marketing, it was like they used it as like some sort of promo video. And it was Blair the Flair with Don King. And they were talking about, the fight that's coming up. Adrien Broner comes in, and these guys are spitting back and forth at each other. I'm like, okay, you got my man Adrien Broner, and then you got Ice-T's son, Blair Cobbs. They going back and forth. I'm like, yo, this man should be in New Jack Swing. This guy's an actor. I didn't know who he was. And so I'm looking up the brother's resume. The brother is 19-1. They only fought. He's only lost one fight in his entire career. The problem with Blair Cobbs was Blair Cobbs had a lot of layoffs. He would fight and he would win most of his fights. 19 wins, 10 KOs, 1 draw, 1 loss. Okay, the brother is special. But for this fight, I looked at Adrien Broner. I said, Adrien, you got to beat this dude. Because he's making all these types of jokes. He's bringing up Muppets. He's clowning AB. Clowning AB. And, AB was the one that's known for being the clown. He's the one, and when I say clown, he's the one that's clowning people. He's clowning his opponent. He's talking about taking somebody's girl. He's talking about how he's going to beat somebody up and all this kind of stuff. He even said it in this fight. I thought it was kind of wild. He talked about, hey, you make any false moves, we're going to come get you. That's out of line. AB, that's out of line, respectfully, because you are a four-time champion and you are a Hall of Fame boxer. But because you're a Hall of Fame boxer, brother, I mean, people look at you and look, people love Adrien Broner. But he ain't got to bring up the shooting part. We don't need that in our community. We don't need to bring up that type of violence in our community. And this is coming from an AB Can-Man fan. So they're going back and forth. Blair Cobbs is a great fighter, turns out, but he's talking a bunch of mad stuff to Adrien Broner. I'm like, okay, Adrien Broner, he come back. He's like, look, I'm gonna die in the ring. That's what he said. He said, I'm willing to die in the ring. So I purchased the fight. Not all fights I purchased, but I purchased this one because of the back and forth between the two. And I was very curious to see if Adrien Broner was going to let his hands go. Because the key to this fight, in my opinion, because Adrien Broner, to this day, Deontay Wilder, to this day, Adrien Broner, at 34 years old, if he lets his hands go, is one of the best boxers in the nation. So I'm watching the fight. In the first round, I'm already thinking, okay, Blair, he's throwing some combinations. And AB, he's settling in, but he not throwing any combinations for real. You know what I mean? He just got his hands in position like this. He's like trying to block. And I'm like, yo, AB, you gotta test the waters. Because it's looking like you're gonna lose the fight. By the first round, I'm like, okay, why aren't you letting your hands go? I know people like to test out, but you've been talking like, hey, look, this is going to be a battle. It's going to be, sometimes bunk the feeling out process. Let's go to war. If it's a war, let's go to war. So here comes the second round. Blair Cobbs, he throws in some combinations. Pop! Hits him right in the button. AB's tooth comes out. AB's tooth come out. Not only does his tooth come out, his mouth guard comes out, and he lands awkwardly. Now, I didn't know this at the time. Turns out he tore his shoulder, and I believe he injured his hand or his wrist or something like that. And when he gets up, he's like struggling a little bit, and he's trying to find his mouthpiece. And he ends up putting it in. I'm like, yo, why aren't you letting your team pick up the mouthpiece? Why are you trying to pick it up yourself? Just go. From my perspective, from that fight, from that point on, Blair Cobbs was throwing really good combinations, and he is an awkward fighter. The way that he can, the way that he was just feeling out AB, and he was just tagging him. And the thing about Blair Cobbs was, it wasn't like he was giving AB some devastating shots, but he was just tagging him. And AB, since the Maidana fight, Adrien Broner has not been the same fighter. AB has been afraid to let his hands go. And so here's the thing that I think all great champions and all people have to realize. It's okay to lose at times. Sometimes you'll fall on your face. When you are a great fighter, when you're trying to do something in life, you're not always gonna win. There's gonna be some time periods where your back's gonna be against the wall, and people will laugh at you. People will make jokes about you. People will say things about you. You might even be embarrassed. But when you get to a certain level, sometimes that happens. It's not about how you get hurt. It's about how you get up from being hurt and keep trying. That's what makes great champions. That's what makes people from average or good to great. Being able to withstand the losses and overcoming those things. You see, everybody is in love with this, oh, you gotta be a zero. You gotta be a 40-0 fighter. You gotta knock out all your opponents. Floyd Mayweather lost in the Olympics. Okay? He lost in the Olympics. Now, they say he should have won, but at the end of the day, he lost. So, he received, I believe, it was a silver medal or a bronze medal. He didn't earn one. He said, to his words, he received it. Floyd took that motivation to become the best boxer in his generation. Adrien Broner could have done the same. Is AB done? AB is not done yet. But AB is 34 years old. And while the boxing game isn't the same as it used to be, you can be 36, 37, 38 years old and still be in the fight game. But at this point, you also have to look at the fact is the boxing game is a game where you're just getting hit from the stomach to the head. And most of them are going to be headshots. So, because of that fact, I do think the 36-year age, there should be an age limit. I know that's probably a controversial statement, but if you're a boxer and you're just getting hit in the head, there's mental stuff that's going to happen to you as a boxer. So I believe that there should be a requirement. That is a very controversial thing, but at the end of the day, we're talking about people's lives. So 36, 37, that's, to me, is a good age to stop professional fighting, especially if you're somebody who's fought in the amateur levels. Because AB has fought 300 amateur fights. It would be different if he was a professional fighter that didn't have 300 amateur fights. He had 300 amateur fights along with his professional record. That's a lot of punishment. That's a lot of heat. So for somebody that has that amount of amateur fights, they should be thinking about retirement, potentially. But I don't believe AB is done. I think AB has a few things. He's got a few fights in the can. But I also believe that our expectations of him thinking, he's just going to wash this opponent, that's done. And for a lot of fans, it's probably been done for a long time. My next topic is Deontay Wilder. To this day, Deontay Wilder, who recently fought against Zhang, who is Asian heavyweight. I believe he's fifth-ranked heavyweight in the world. Now, Deontay Wilder, as everyone knows, has the highest knockout rating in boxing history and is absolutely one of the greatest heavyweights in boxing history. But I do believe it's time for Deontay Wilder to hang up and retire. For AB, I believe AB's still got some time. Deontay Wilder's 38 years old, and he's been hit with a certain amount of punishment. You see, what I would suggest for boxing aficionados to do is require that there be a super heavyweight. I might have discussed this in the previous show, but I want to make an emphasis to this now. In that fight with Deontay Wilder and Zhang weighed in at 286 pounds. Deontay Wilder came in at 214 pounds. I don't care that Zhang felt Wilder's power and he knew that was a real threat. If Ryan Garcia's 3 pounds can affect a fight, we're talking about over 60 pounds of Zhang against Deontay Wilder. When Wilder was facing Tyson Fury was coming in at almost 300 pounds. Deontay Wilder was coming in at 206. Deontay Wilder was fighting at Mike Tyson's weight at 5'10". Mike Tyson's 5'10", 5'11", coming in at 210 pounds, 208 pounds. That's how much Deontay Wilder weighs in at 6'6". There should be a super heavyweight class for people who are 280 pounds, 270 pounds. That's too much for a fighter that's going to be at the traditional heavyweight area. So that's what I got to say about that. We need to require a super heavyweight. I'm going to continue to say that. Nonetheless, the reason why Deontay Wilder needs to retire is because of narrative, because of the story. You see, people forget the reason why Deontay Wilder, well, people don't forget. People realize that Deontay Wilder became a boxer because of his daughter, because he needed the money, and he was already a gifted athlete. He had the height, he had the build for a fighter, and he knew his daughter was in a tough place, and so he used that money to become the great boxer that we know today. And because of the Tyson fight, we were able to see a great trilogy. But that should have been the end of, hey, look, I'm done. Because when you keep on losing fights after the Wilder Tyson Fury fight, people start to say, oh, he's washed. Oh, he's done. I don't know if we live in the era. We don't live in the era, unfortunately, where people don't respect people who lose, even if they're great fighters. I think everybody respects this old column. And so from that perspective, I do believe that Wilder should go into acting. He should go into boxing, journalism. He should go into different things that showcase his personality, because Deontay Wilder is a great personality. And he's been great for the sport of boxing. And as a fan, it was very heartbreaking to see that fight where he was just caught. I mean, the brother was hit so bad, he looked at the ref and smiled. He turned his head and looked at the ref while the fight was still going on. And then let Zhang just hit him in the face as he fell out. I've never seen Wilder in that position. Not like that. I didn't expect that. So, my last piece on Wilder is this. Wilder is an incredible champion. He is one of the greatest of all time. I believe that the time is done. But what he's done for the sport of boxing is he's helped put that love back into the fight game. And boxing would not be the same without Wilder. To this day, thank you, Wilder, for what you've done for the sport of boxing. The next topic that I want to get into, Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford, he is fighting he's fighting an undefeated fighter by the name of, what's the brother's name? Is it Israel? Israel Madrimov. And correct me if I'm wrong, I probably am pronouncing that name incorrectly. But he's fighting Israel Madrimov. Now, Madrimov, I believe that's his name, is an undefeated fighter. He's a young fighter, 29 years old, well, relatively young fighter, 10-0, an Asian boxer who has a very strong presence. Now, Terence Crawford is the best fighter in the world. The brother is special. Everyone knows that. What he did to Errol Spence was unprecedented. I believe that the big money fight has got to be Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Crawford. And I believe that this fight is going to secure the Canelo fight. This fight is going to be at 154. Not at 147, but at 154. Crawford continually rises to the occasion. The way that he can change styles in fights, mid-fight, his training regimen, his love for the sport. Terrence Crawford is what the sport of boxing needs. And frankly, Top Rank should have been used Terrence Crawford, even over Vasily Lomachenko. Now, I know everybody loved Vasily Lomachenko, but over time, we see the evolution of Crawford and what the Nebraska native has done throughout all these years. And that fight with Errol Spence really just showed the world how great us boxing fans we already knew. Now, the Canelo Alvarez fight is going to be interesting after this fight because I do believe this is going to be a tough fight. But I do believe that Crawford will win in the end. I would say it's probably getting around 7-8. Terrence Crawford, TKO. He's going to win it. The fight with Canelo Alvarez is going to be very interesting because Canelo, as we all know, to me, he's like Manny Pacquiao. He's like Triple G. He's like all the great classic fighters of his era. Someone who literally moved up several weight classes. And he would be the undisputable face of boxing if it hadn't been for the chicken, the steroids in the chicken. He would undisputably be the best if the chicken situation never happened, as well as the fact that the Triple G fight, a lot of people were disappointed. Maybe it was just me, but I personally believed that should have been an all-out war. I felt like it was more of a technical battle, but I didn't really appreciate at the time that, no, Canelo had learned from the Mayweather fight that you don't have to just be this knockout artist, that you don't have to just be this gung-ho type fighter. You can be a technical fighter that breaks an opponent down. And I didn't appreciate, because I didn't expect that from Canelo. But over the years, I've been able to appreciate that. So you have Canelo Alvarez, who could be undisputably the best if it hadn't been for the steroid situation, versus Terrence Crawford, who was undisputably the best because he beat up and destroyed Errol Spence. And if you look at the body of work of who Terrence Crawford has beaten, and you look at the body of work that Canelo Alvarez has beaten, this is truly the fight of the century. Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Bud Crawford. Now, I know that people say, well, Terrence Bud basically is going to move up 2 weight classes to fight Canelo Alvarez. He shouldn't fight him. They also said that about Roy Jones. Or maybe they didn't. But my argument is that they did. They said Roy Jones came in at a middleweight, and he went all the way up to a heavyweight and won the championship. That's how great Terrence Crawford is. That's how great Canelo Alvarez is. So I can't wait for that fight to happen, because when it does, man, it's going to be special. I can't wait for that. I cannot wait for that at all. The next topic I want to talk about is Mike Tyson's health scare. Mike Tyson 2 weeks ago was reportedly taken to the hospital. He was overtraining. The brother is 57, 58 years old. He should not be fighting this fight. I don't care that Jake Paul has only really fought, guys who he's fought basketball players. He's fought UFC guys. He's fought different people who have skill, but they're not professional boxers, if you will. Well, Tommy Fury is a professional boxer, so I will say that. But outside of that, he hasn't really fought traditional challengers in the boxing game. And so for me, you just don't play boxing. And I believe this health scare, they're trying to reschedule it, but I don't want them to reschedule. I want them to cancel it. Because even though I want Mike Tyson to get his money, I'd rather see Mike Tyson in movies. I'd rather see Mike Tyson in sitcoms. I don't want to see Mike Tyson at 57, 58 years old fighting somebody who's 27, 28 years old. What I would want to see is Jake Paul in the UFC. I'm tired of seeing Jake Paul in boxing. I want to see what the young man can do in MMA. Why is it that everybody wants to put on the boxing gloves, but they don't want to put on the mixed martial arts gloves? How about that? How about you switch? You still can make some money that way, You don't play boxing. I'll say this, Jake Paul could go into the UFC and fight them. How about that? Or fight real boxers, because I'm tired of you playing boxing. People are disrespecting the sport of boxing by allowing that. For me, I don't like it. I don't appreciate it. But he is somebody who is a draw. He is somebody who a lot of people like and respect, and you gotta respect it. You gotta respect it. So I do respect Jake Paul. I do respect the business sense. The promotional sense is genius. He and his brother are just promotional geniuses. But what I would want from Jake Paul is go in there with the real fighter. Go in there with the Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia put his name out in the ring. He said, hey, Mike Tyson's out, put me in. That's a fight I want to see, because Ryan Garcia is an entertainer as well as a boxer. So that's going to sell millions of dollars. That's what I want to see. I want to see Jake Paul versus Ryan Garcia boxing match. Let's let go of Mike Tyson. Ryan Garcia versus Jake Paul. That's going to sell millions of dollars. That's going to sell. But will Jake Paul do it? Will Jake Paul sign up to a fight he knows he's going to lose at? Because Ryan Garcia, if he did that to Devin Haney, what's he going to do? See, he ain't going to want to do that unless Ryan Garcia takes it easy on him, which he could. But that's the fight that I want to see. That's the fight I want to see. The next topic that I want to talk about is Claressa Shields. Claressa Shields is moving up to heavyweight. She's moving up to the heavyweight division because she has beat everyone in almost all of her weight classes. She's moved up. I believe this is her. She's already a three-time. She's already won championships in 3 weight classes. And if she moves up to heavyweight and wins, she'll be a 4-time champion in 4 different weight classes. That's GOAT worthy like. She's the GOAT, the greatest woman of all time. We got to put more respect towards our female boxing champions. Claressa Shields is another face of boxing that people should recognize. I mean, you're talking about a black woman that not only gets in the ring and does incredible work, but she'll go into the PFL and make some noise in that world as well. How many boxers can do that? Claressa Shields did it. And she is a great sports commentator. The way that the way she can decipher boxing news, boxing fights, is something that I believe is a future in sports commentating. So, for me, she's another face of boxing that people should really be highlighting on Fight Hype, on ESPN, Fox News. We're seeing Fox Sports, ESPN, all these news outlets. We're seeing the rise of the WNBA. Let's push women's athletics in the fight game, in mixed martial arts, in boxing. There's so many gifted and talented individuals that need to be shown. And I believe the time is now, and Clarissa Shields is the face of that. Hello, everyone. You listen to the first episode of The Fight Game with Tim McKain, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing UFC fighter Michael Beast Boy Davis, 8-2. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Feeling good. Feeling excited. Ready to get back in the cage. Man, it's been over a year, and we're just kind of picking up from there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, first, I want to thank you for the opportunity, and my next question to you is, when did your love for the fight game begin? Take us back to you and the journey of your future of becoming a mixed martial artist.
Honestly, I don't even like fighting. I like the training. I like going into the headquarters gym where all my friends and teammates are, and we all laugh, hang out, learn, talk. But then as a professional, I mean, in order to do that for a living, in order to do that every single day, I have to go and fight. So it's just kind of like a requirement. But honestly, it's a good way to test my skills, see how I'm progressing and learning. But I don't know. I would say that I started getting good at it when I was like 20. I was kind of old. Yeah. I started at 14 wrestling, and then I went into boxing at the same time. So I was wrestling and boxing. But then I went to college at 16 and left college at 19 and went back into MMA. But for the college years, I just focused on college.
That's incredible. So you said your friends introduced you. So who were some of the friends that introduced you to wrestling? Since you didn't like fighting at first, so who were some of the people that led you to start wrestling, to start boxing?
The bigger people of the senior year in high school, because I was so small. I got picked on a lot. So they kind of, without realizing, drove me into training so I can know how to defend myself, know how to kind of handle the situations a little better. And drove me into realizing a talent I never knew I had, that I was good at fighting. I've never been in a fight before.
Wow.
Yeah. Even to this day, I've never been in a fight.
That's crazy. That's crazy, man. So 16 years old, going to college. Explain that. Like, I mean, your parents must have been like on you about academics. Like, where did that passion for education begin? Because at 16 to go to college,
there's no. I was just young. I think I started school early, and then I doubled up. I think 10th and 11th grade into 1 year, so I could graduate. And I graduated with advanced Regents diploma when I was 16. Yeah, I turned 17 that following winter, but
I got you. So transition. So you graduated college at 19 years old. What got you back into mixed martial arts?
While I was in college, I got really big, really strong. And then my mom told me to try MMA. I wasn't doing MMA at the point. So I tried MMA. I went to this gym, started liking it. Honestly, just stuck with it, and then realized I was really good. I started taking fights, winning every single fight. It felt really good. It feels really good to win. So kept going.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And what were some of the differences between being an amateur and then becoming a professional? Like, what are some of the greatest battles you faced as an amateur, and what are some of the greatest battles you faced as a professional?
Let's see. As an amateur, I believe it would be the weight cut. Because as an amateur, you're kind of I mean, you have your team, but really a lot of it's just based on you doing your own thing. And then you don't know what you're doing. I mean, you're still an amateur. You've had maybe, even if you've had like 5 fights, you still don't know how to properly diet, water load, nutrition, cut soda. You don't know how to do it, all that. But as a pro, you have this entire team behind you that's like, hey, you're supposed to be eating this. You're supposed to be here. Your weight's 2 pounds heavy. You need to get down 2 pounds by the end of tonight. And like, they're really on you as a pro. And then with a pro, the rules change and like fights change. So normally you wear shin pads as an amateur, and those shin pads are removed. So when you take your first pro fight and you throw that first kick and you collide shin to shin, you realize that this is a very big difference. It's a whole different world. As well as elbows. Can't throw elbows as an amateur. And then as a pro, yeah, you get caught with your first elbow and it really opened your eyes. Like, pro is very aggressive, very different. You really have to condition your body to be ready for a professional bout.
I got you.
As an amateur, I mean, you're getting punched with bigger gloves, shin pads, so it's kind of like hard sparring. And pro, it's a fight. It's, you just met me in the street and I'm fighting you. That's kind of how it is. I
got you. So you talk about that first elbow. What was that first elbow, that first punch that made you realize, oh, I'm in. This is professionals now. I'm in the fight game for real.
I got kicked in the face, shin across my face, and my whole eye turned red and black. And after the fight, during the fight, I just kind of like ate it. But after the fight, my bloodshot eyes all the way through, my eye was black. I was like, damn, it wouldn't happen with shin pads on.
That's crazy, man. So how did you respond to that when you, I know you ate it, but how did you like mentally respond to like getting hit in the face like that hard?
Your adrenaline's rushing too much. Either you go to sleep from a kick or it really just doesn't hurt at all. There's two things. And even if you get knocked out from it, you won't feel anything. Your adrenaline is so high, it just hit, your lights will shut off. That'll be the end of it. Or you'll get hit and just come right back. There's really nothing to it.
I got you. So what led you to the name Beast Boy? When did you decide to name yourself Beast Boy? And was it because of the Teen Titans?
Yeah, it was because of the Teen Titans. Actually, hold on. So as a kid, when I was growing up, and I was starting to train, I was wrestling. I was just pure wrestling. But I was a boxer. So during my first moments of training, I would be able to adapt. So if my opponent or my sparring partner was a boxer, I'd be able to outbox him. And then if I was outboxing him and he shot on me, I'd be able to out-wrestle him. And then jiu-jitsu, so I was able to adapt, which is Beast Boy's quality. So some kid, his name's Eric, he referred to me as Beast Boy. And I kept it, but I have so many of these little guys around. Many. I have them tattooed on me as well.
That's crazy. Okay. So were there any other like action figure? This is not sports, but I'm just curious to know, like, what other action heroes that you grew up watching that you were like, yo, like, was there ever just Beast Boy, or was there any other action figure or action star that you were like, man, I wouldn't mind naming myself after this guy?
Nightcrawler.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the teleporting and the tail. So I thought that was really cool. And Kid Buu.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why Kid Buu?
Not a superhero, but the comical aggression and kind of attitude that he has is perfect. It's definitely something I would have changed my name to Kid Buu.
Interesting. I like it. So, Michael, what have you learned from your losses and your wins? Do you feel like you learn more from your wins or your losses, or have you learned both equally?
The only loss I really learned from was against Sadiq, because when I took that fight, all my fights, all the way up to that fight, I was just taking fights, and if I won, I won. If I lost, I lost. So thankfully, I just kept winning. But I would never study my opponent. I would never look at his videos. I would never ask who he is, nothing. They would just give me this guy's name and I'd be like, yep, come on, let's go. And I do it over and over. So after I lost that fight, we were both in the hospital and I was talking to his coach, his name, Lloyd Irving. There you go. And they were telling me how they had to find a way to beat me. They studied all my videos. They noticed I'm a big boxer, so I was heavy on my lead leg, and that's how they game planned it. They game planned it to come out and attack my lead leg until my stance was all messed up. So then after that fight, now I definitely watch my opponents, see what they're about. I don't really care if they're good or bad or what they're great at. I just want to see, like, all right, so he's crazy, he comes forward, that kind of thing. He can mix it up well, but and then I went to Thailand to correct my feet so I can check kicks. Yeah.
I got you.
I'm not getting kicked in my leg anymore.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Was there ever a time where you looked at an opponent and you underestimated his ability? Or do you feel like as a fighter, you never underestimated? You had that Mayweather mentality that said, I can't underestimate anyone in the – okay.
You can't. Because, I mean, anyone can put you to sleep. Anyone can knock you out. Wild, crazy swing. You just happen to get clipped and knocked out. Yes, I've seen people get knocked out with jabs. I've seen people get knocked out with, like, toe flicking the head and they just fall to the ground. So anything can happen. And I definitely treat every fight like it's going to be hard. I know, like, it's going to be a fight, 3-round fight. That's how I think about it. It's going to be a 3-round fight and I'm going to bleed. You're going to bleed. Or someone's finishing or not.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The one thing that I noticed about you, Mike, when I was looking at your resume, I noticed several canceled bouts. As a fighter, as an amateur, as a professional, how do you mentally handle canceling people canceling fights? How do you handle that as a fighter?
I mean, it does go both ways. And as an amateur, I was trying to climb the scene. I was trying to grow. And people were always accepting fights and then backing out as an amateur. They would accept a fight, look me up, back out. And it would be terrible. And I went like 2 years without an opponent. So I had to resort to boxing, where even still I had people backing out in boxing. But I do understand people pulling out because, again, last year, 2020, worst year of my life, I pulled out of a fight twice. And I had to. I was so injured that if I took that fight, there's going to be no point in me trying. And for me to be in this situation, to have to pull out of a fight, I understand that even the littlest things can cause a fighter to not want to fight. A little kink in the elbow or shoulder while you're throwing punches, and it's very annoying. And you just think about it, because when you're in a fight, if you get punched in it, or if someone tries to submit you or bends that arm, you're going to feel that the rest of the fight, and you'll probably lose you won't be able to bring your hand up. Something will happen. It's just little things. So we do have to treat a fight like we have to at least be capable of fighting.
Yes, sir.
And I understand that.
Yes, sir. So how is COVID? And speaking of 2020 was a bad year for a lot of people, for several people. How was 2020 for you when it comes to you being a fighter in this whole COVID situation?
So January, I got hurt, broke my ribs, and I was injured. Couldn't train, couldn't do anything until like March 12th. So I get back in the gym. I'm training light. I feel good. 2 days go by. COVID shuts down everything. Everything's closed. A month goes by. It's the end of April. Everything's open again. Well, not everything. Our gym opened to specific fighters as long as we get tested. So I go in the gym. I'm training again. I'm like 182 now. This is gaining weight. And
we all were. Oh, we all were.
I know. And so I'm training. Then I get a call from the management. They're like, "Hey, that guy you were supposed to fight, he needs an opponent for May." So I was like, "Okay." It's like it's 2 weeks away. I was like, "All right, 145." I'm like 182. Like, let's try it. So I tried to make weight. Got some weird infection in my face that was drying me out, and I couldn't cut any weight. Like water would not come out of my body.
Wow.
And I had people in the weight room with me in the sauna. I was running outside in the sauna suit. I was doing everything, and I would lose like 0.2 of a pound after a whole day of sweating. So I had to back out of that fight. Then I got that issue taken care of. I got checked out and put on antibiotics. I don't remember what it was, but it was definitely not fun.
Yes, sir.
And you want to keep going? We have June. I got COVID. Yeah. Or something. I never tested positive, but I definitely had all the symptoms, but never one positive test. So after that, I'm starting to feel better. It's been a couple weeks. I am riding my bike. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling good. I go to cross a crosswalk, get T-boned by a car. Yeah. So now the whole left side of my body is fractured. I got some injuries on my right side. Now I'm kind of just chilling all of July, all the rest of July into August. I start training again. And you know how after you get injuries, there's some light stuff that shows up randomly?
Yeah.
There you go. Those started popping up out of nowhere. So September, I get some injuries. My upper body, like my shoulder starts to be bad. It's fine now, but my shoulder was bad. So I was like, okay, I'll just resort to running. So I ran 45 miles in a week, tore my meniscus. Wow. So it's been hell. It's been hell.
Wow. So 2021, what are your goals? How's 2020 looking for Michael Davis? What are you seeing for 2021?
I want to fight 3 or 4 times, 4 or 5 times. I want to be healthy. I do not want to be injured. That's the main thing. I do not want to be injured in 2021. I want to be able to get my name recognized, create self-branding, help people. I want to help maybe like at least 50 people this year. Just do something small for 50 people. Make a nice little change. Really figure out what I'm doing, because right now I'm kind of just blind running into this fighting. I never thought I'd make it to the UFC. It wasn't a dream of mine until some people were like, hey, you have what it takes to make it to the UFC. So I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. Fighting isn't like something I'm passionate about. It's not something that I wake up and I'm like, oh, I got to fight. No, it's not. It just ended up being something I was decent at. So I stuck with it.
I respect that. That. So then that leads me to my next question, which is, what does success look like for Michael Davis inside the octagon, but also more importantly, outside the octagon?
I think success would be being able to live without stressing, without looking at your bank account. To me, to be able to go out and be like, oh, that's a nice jacket, let me buy that. And without looking at your bank account, that's success to me. And then everyone in your circle, you have your circle, they're all happy, they're all eating too. That's success to me. I don't necessarily think owning a home, a nice car, that's not a necessity in life, because I could be content driving around the country in a van, training at a bunch of different gyms. I mean, easy life. So,
yes, sir. Yes,
success is comfort.
I like that. Okay. So,
and when it comes to like MMA, success to me would just be, everyone's dream is to have that gold.
Yes, sir.
That would be my dream.
I like that. So let's say a kid comes up to you and he's trying to become a professional fighter. He's an amateur.
Yeah.
What are your personal keys to success that you would give to somebody, to a boy or girl who wants to become a professional like you one day?
Every fight, I feel like no matter what, nowadays, just the fighters, the number ones, they're all grapplers. They're wrestlers. They're grapplers. They're really good at the ground. So start with jujitsu, because jujitsu will teach you takedowns. It'll teach you ground game. Maybe not the striking aspect. So when it comes to the striking, I would say if you want to be able to use your kicks, start with Muay Thai. If you want to have better hands, quick hands, go with boxing. But definitely those two simultaneously will kickstart your training. Stick with it. It's so hard in the beginning. It's definitely unpleasant. It doesn't feel fun because no matter what you do, people are just better than you. Every single person in the gym has been there for a month, even just the months, but still every single person is better than you in the beginning. So you're going to lose, you're going to get beat, you're going to get hurt. But if you stick with it, it pays off.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, where can people find you on social media, and when will you want to fight next?
Let's see. So my social media is all Mike Davis MMA. It's across the board, Twitter, Instagram. I should start a YouTube. I probably might do that.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to do that. And Twitch. I'm starting a Twitch, so I'm going to start gaming. I'm a big Warzone person. I just got a PS5, so I'm going to be going crazy on that.
Yes, sir.
I'm fighting in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Stepping in the cage, yeah. The 20th of January. I feel fine. I mean, cardio-wise, ready for 5 rounds. Mentally ready for whatever. Always got to be ready for a war. I mean, this is just the part that comes with it, so.
The last topic that I want to talk about is the Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney situation. Now, why am I recycling back? There was news where they both came out and they said, hey, Golden Boy, where's my money? I ain't got it yet. Devin Haney made some statements and saying, hey, I tried to call Oscar De La Hoya, where's my money? Ryan Garcia said the same thing. This goes back into the fact of Canelo going against Oscar De La Hoya when Canelo recently was in a fight this year where he was going out, calling out Oscar De La Hoya, telling him, you don't pay your athletes. And then he said to the fighter, Jamie Montoya, I believe is his name, or Montoya, if I'm correct, if I'm wrong, I stand corrected. Jamie, he told the boxer, Jamie, make sure you check your books because he might actually be taking your money. So here comes these two tweets, several tweets from one of the best fights that we've seen this year of Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney, with both fighters suggesting, where's my money, Oscar De La Hoya, Golden Boy? What's going on? De La Hoya comes with a response saying, we haven't collected all the money yet. When the money comes to us, we'll give you the money. I believe Floyd Mayweather also suggested this as well when he said, hey, look, sometimes the money comes in from the back end. So fighters have to realize that while there are situations where promoters do take advantage of you, and you do need to look at that, we also have to understand as business people, hey, look, sometimes the money comes slower than what we expected it to. So we do have to look at it from both sides of, hey, how do we protect ourselves from potential promoters or managers who mismanage or try to hide from us? Or we also know from the back end money, sometimes the situations aren't always going to be there. This kind of reminds me of the situation that's happening with Floyd Mayweather. And we're seeing Gervonta Davis leaving Floyd Mayweather Promotions. We're seeing a North Carolina fighter who recently is leaving Mayweather Promotions. One of the things that I've noticed about these promotions is, and this is why I believe Oscar is probably the best boxer promoter out of it. But when you're a boxer who becomes a promoter, it's a tougher thing for some reason than for someone who's just a businessman and a promoter. For whatever reason. I don't know what it is, but people look at Floyd and they say, okay, Floyd, you do a great job of promoting yourself, but I don't know if you promote me well. Oscar De La Hoya has the similar, it looks like he's got the similar perspective of Top Rank. Top Rank was really good at promotion, but they were promoting one athlete at a time. Why weren't they promoting Terrence Crawford the same way they were promoting Vasily Lomachenko? There was a one-track mind. Why was it that Top Rank was promoting Oscar De La Hoya, but they weren't promoting Floyd Mayweather like they should have been? Golden Boy is falling under that same line of one fighter is the face and everyone else. That's what the general perception is. So that's the thing that I would want to know is how can these boxing promoters work together to where we're actually seeing great fighters being promoted and represented at a level where everyone can eat? Because everyone can eat. The question is, are people willing to make that buck, that chance? And that's the question that I would pose to these promoters. But it's very curious. It's very interesting for me to see the difference between being a boxing promoter, where you actually had the experience of being a boxer, versus just being a straight businessman, like a Top Rank or like different promotions like that, where you're seeing people or Don King, for example, who, by the way, Don King is special. Don King is someone at 92 years old is still doing great in news conferences, is still doing great at promoting. Don King is a legend that I do believe that as black journalists, black content creators, we really need to do a deep dive and study onto Don King, because we're talking about a black man who was able to promote some of the best boxers in history. And I do believe we need to give Don King some of the respect he deserves, outside of the fact that, hey, look, there's some stuff that people look at and say, hey, what about this? What about that? Look, Don King has promoted a lot of people. He's given a lot of people an opportunity to be great. And I can't wait for the day that we truly, truly recognize the greatness of being an owner. And that's what Don King is. He's a boss. He's an owner. He's someone who promotes great fights. So that is all for The Fight Game on Sports Rap Radio, 1270 AM, Detroit. See y'all next time.